Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of the Key to Games podcast here on Game Wisdom, where some of the art and science of games. I am Josh Beister, and joining me, my co-host, indie developer from Casual Game Studio, Joshua Reyes. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It was a busy week for me. Sick kids.
Hmm.
I think I was still finishing up some more taxes, and I think we went over that for Indie Dev Studios just a little bit. And let's see. Other than that, no, I think that's pretty much it. You yourself, Josh, how you doing?
Busy as always. I'm trying to contact all the libraries I've been dealing with, trying to do like my big reminder email, and realize I have like 700 libraries I have to email. So it is getting a bit busy there, so I need to look into some organization software, which is another aspect of game dev. I think we brought up last week.
Yes, yes, definitely a very integral part of it for sure.
hmm Um, Also, as a bit of exciting news, I'll make a formal video about it, but I spoke with my publisher, and we are going to get locked in for two more books in the game design deep dive series, while I'm still finishing up the RPG one, and production has officially begun on game design deep dive, trading, and collectible card games. And as I post about this on Twitter, I finally got some user reviews of some of my books, all like 1 to 2 star reviews. So I'm like, well, now I know what reading user reviews is like. So again, like by the end of this year, I will know everything there is about game dev without ever working on one single game. I
That's
will have
amazing.
osmosis. I will absorb all of game dev just by doing that.
That's right, man. Through osmosis.
But for our topic tonight, we are planning on getting Tomo on. I believe he may have fallen asleep or something came up. If he does happen to pop in, I will try and get him on. But our topic is going to be on a very major one that's been kind of growing over the. Yep, exactly, board fan. That has been growing over, I would say, maybe like the last 5 to 6 months, maybe even more than that. For those of you who somehow have forgotten, 2022 was kind of dominated by discussion of NFTs and blockchains as being, the next big thing, what was going to change the game industry. And that, for the most part, has kind of died down quite a bit. I think the only person I know who's still kind of focusing on that is Ramin. And I'm still very much eager to see like how that game's going to turn out.
Yeah, same here.
But
Definitely.
the new trend is, of course, using AI generated content. So the two big ones right now is going to be AI art and actually like AI chat, which has been something that's been kind of being discussed in like the last 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a little bit more than that, at least from what I've seen. And it is certainly raising some very interesting questions about whether or not the industry should use it and can they use it for their games. So I looked into this a little bit, and if I miss anything, Josh, feel free to add into this. But the idea of these programs is they very much follow the same kind of, I guess, philosophy of proc gen. That you feed into AI all kinds of content that you're trying to build. In this case, art. So you're showing paintings and screenshots and anything from any kind of artist or style you want, and you're training the AI to then be able to generate something in that style. So put enough in, and you now have something that if I want to type into an OpenAI monkey riding a Gundam to Saturday Night Fever, it can generate that probably within a few minutes. I don't know how actually like the time frame on that, but it will generate that, and now I have that for whatever reason I may need it for.
You're gonna
And
have to put it on your wall, Josh.
yeah, and with the idea of AI generated text, this is something that I know BuzzFeed's been talking about. I think CNN or CNET got in trouble. But the idea
Yeah.
that, again, you can just type into an AI program top 10 favorite video games, or what is the worst video game of 1999, and it will generate a very ad filled, clickbaity text that you can put onto any website.
Yeah, if you've kind of noticed this like trend of like this strange, oddly clickbaity things like CNET, I think for a year now they've been doing it. They finally fessed up to it. And so if you could tell, some of the sameness of some of the content that was generating is because the computational model that it's based on is based off the internet, right? So you're kind of going to get a feedback loop in some strange ways. But yeah, for sure. Yeah. Anyway, Josh.
Mm-hmm. And right now on a lot of the internet, or I've been seeing on YouTube all these, what if Family Guy was an 80s spin-off or a sitcom? What if this show was like this? And as someone who's been like trying to pay attention to more of these things, all those things look like a Junji Ito scene when they're like showing like these people like 87 teeth in their mouth and like 75 wrinkles in their head, and it's just like freaking me out as I'm like looking at this stuff.
Has to be a new word for uncanny valley, right? For
Mm-hmm.
for this.
We need like a super uncanny valley
Yeah.
or something along those lines. And this has been finding its way into game dev. There are a lot of developers out there who, again, they don't have really great artistic skill. So if you need to have something very easy and very quick and cheap done for your game, you can do that. And it has again brought into this question as to, is this something that the game industry needs? And there's, I think, two very interesting sides about this, about whether we can use it and whether we should use it, or like, is it really going to help matters? But so I've been talking a lot over the last few minutes. I'm going to let Josh chime in. Is there anything that I missed, or we can start with your thoughts?
Yeah, no, you basically summed it up. I mean, things like we have Midjourney, Chat GPT is like the big one. That one is the one that recently was just open to the public, and I believe it like surpassed the users within 5 days of like literally every single social media outlet, from Facebook to YouTube to everything. It's just showing that there's a huge interest in this. Um, Now the point you brought up about whether this is should be used in game dev or not, I think that's too late. It is, or it's already going to be used in game dev now. It's just going to be now, I think, how it's properly used, because I think one of the best thing, like when we're going to get into it, like it has a lot of pros, but there is also, with any tool, there's a lot of cons. And so what we could end up ending with is like we were talking about with the CNET ads, how they all kind of just like seem the same top 10 listy and things like that. So we could end up with the same type of dialogue-y type situations, or AI type situations that would be using it for. So we still have to, even though we're using AI, one thing we have to make sure is it still needs to be curated, right? Like you can't purely solely rely on AI generated. There needs to be a human element and a soul to it. In order to just, in order to do, it's using the AI, I think, is best as a base for conception and creating things, and then taking it from there, but not just solely basing it on it, Josh.
Mm-hmm. And talking about the human element, that also brings up the legal concerns
Yeah,
about AI
definitely.
programs, and that we will be talking about for sure over however long this discussion is going to be. But to that point about whether it is or isn't here to stay, and I think we can say that it certainly has validity among game dev, is that, again, one of the things that we've spoken about, I said a lot about this in my free-to-play book, that there are people who look down on any kind of monetization as evil. That is the second you use it, the game is horrible, it's ruined. But anything can be, I think, twisted either for good or bad when we're talking about mechanics and systems. And I think in this respect, again, we're separating the legality side for later. AI generated content it can help out a lot when it comes to game dev. Being able to, in a matter of minutes, think of some crazy idea in your head and get, right here on the screen that you can then use or reference for something else is a huge point. Last week when we were talking about kind of, the foundational stuff, or the week before, the game dev checklists, that if you can put into an AI you know, just get like basic UI, or even just get the basic aesthetic of your game done, which could take months in seconds, minutes. That's a huge way to save on your game and move forward with it.
I literally tested this with ChatGPT. I tested it this week. So I had a mechanic that I wanted to implement in Samurai Pig. And so this was in C++. And so I said, let's see if I could generate it. So I went with ChatGPT. And basically, one of the pro tips, if you're going to use it, is you can tell it to act as something, right? So you can say, act as a engineer or whatever, etc. So I said, you're my software engineer. You're going to help me with this issue. I described the issue, and eventually it worked together with me to solve it. It didn't give me the answers. It gave me like, okay, well, here's how I think the code might work, and I would get it right, and I try it. So, and I was using purely only ChatGPT. I didn't Google anything. I didn't look anything up. Only ChatGPT I was using to try and see if I could solve it. And literally got like low level errors it could pick up, like the craziest errors you wouldn't imagine in coding. It was able to pick up. And then it has the ability to be verbose about literally everything. So if there was something about this mathematical concept I didn't get, or something about anything, I could get it explained to it. So not only that, it was also a tutor, and I learned from it. So a very huge aspect of this is going to be what game devs will be able to learn. So this was basically like I had a software engineer with a really high degree level in math sitting next to me. And I was like, hey, man, I'm trying to get this thing working. How would you do it? And he's like, I don't know, this way. And so I try, and I'm like, hey, I tried it that way, but that didn't really work. And so he had another way, and bouncing back and forth, kind of like a rubber ducky, but instead it's a rubber ducky that's full of literally all the entire internet. So literally, it's something that would have taken me my own research. I don't even know, like just the mathematical portions of what we were looking at, what I was trying to implement in the combat. It would have taken me weeks, I would imagine. If I don't even know, it's hard to say, right? Like many times we say we're not sure how long a certain thing might take to implement. It could be quick or it could be fast. And instead, it was able to be implemented quickly, get down to the source of it, find out, and actually learn. And I learned through it. It wasn't like it was completed for me. I know people have heard, remember that word, script kiddie. People. It's not done for you. It actually teaches you, and you learn working with it. So I did test it this week, and I was kind of blown away with the capabilities of it, especially with game engine, C++. We'll get into more later. I tested stuff with dialogue and things like that. But yeah, just
Yep. And like as you're saying it, like that is what a tool is used for. It is assisting you in your creative endeavor. And again, if you can do something within seconds or minutes that would have taken you weeks, months, even of course the challenge of working with someone, like let's say you want to hire a programmer or hire an artist to do work for you.
Yes,
that is a lot of time and it's a lot of money. And having something like this at your disposal can be very useful. I've played a few games over the last few months that have used AI driven art in some capacity. Now, here's the big point though. Is it the best art? And
No.
I would say no, it's not.
Yeah.
And this, to board fans' comment about Pokemon, that it's an idea of, yes, it's quick and dirty, but is it something that kind of like what we talk about with programmer art, that a lot of games, a lot of developers, when they're first starting to make a game, will use kind of, temp or, stock assets, and it works. It works at that moment. But is this something you want to then keep for 1.0 of your game and say, okay, this is going to be what our game's going to look like? That is a different story, and we have seen a lot of games sunk by having poor aesthetics. And when we look at kind of AI art like this, as it would go in my, the freaky Uncanny Valley character designs, It's like, yeah, it's cute and it's still disturbing to see this on YouTube. Would I want to watch a show about this? Would I want to, give money to something like this? And this again goes back to the whole NFT craze. There's now like an NFT video game with the whole ape thing, which I don't want to even look up where the whole ape thing came from. I don't want bad knowledge in my head. But
Run in my Google search.
Again, it's that concept of is great as kind of like a tool, as a stepping stone into something else.
Yeah.
But there are people, and again, this gets back to what we were talking about with the whole NFT thing. There are people out there who want to use this as a quick buck. They want to use this simply as a way of saying, well, I don't want to ever pay for an artist again. And there have been, posts and like people just weirdly attacking creatives. And that is something that I will definitely not stand for there. And, saying, oh, this is going to put all the artists out of a business, or we'll never need journalists again. And that is the part that worries me. And there's a lot more that I want to get into, but I want to hear your thoughts on it. And for that comment in chat, I have not heard of that game, so unfortunately, I cannot help you with that.
Which game is that?
Conquerors of the Gold. I think it's a mobile game. Mm-hmm. And to Board Fans' comment, that's something else I want to talk about next, but I want to throw it to you first.
Oh, yeah. So when you were talking, just a real quick point to bring back when you were talking about how it's a stepping stone. For example, what was the game you were trying to make? Saturday Night Fever?
With a monkey riding a Gundam to Saturday Night Fever.
Right. So my Gundam. So I could take that and I'd have to find actual like concept artists, right? And to find a concept artist that would maybe like I would have to research and say, hey, maybe that's kind of in my style. Instead, what I could do is I could eventually generate something that fits my style, and I could have that art or that temporary art for the demo or whatever, and that's what we're going for, right? And so I can take this art to my official artist and we can go from there, which would be a million times cheaper than sourcing out your concept art, right? Instead you have here's the actual art, this is what we want. So
Yep. But there are people who are they're kind of skipping that step and saying, okay, put this into an AI art program, print, we're done, give me $19.99 for it.
Yeah, that's not. I think that's not going to work. I mean, just like when mobile games, the race to the bottom started. I think that eventually it'll stabilize. I think there's going to be a massive influx of that, and of course, people are going to be able to spot it. And it's the uncanny valley plus is just going to really be evident, and people are going to see it unless it's massaged by a human, by the human element, changed in some way, then it will be evident and it will show, and eventually the cream will rise to the top, and just the derivative stuff will just sink to the bottom. There's so much derivative stuff on the store right now. It's just going to be just an influx of AI type stuff, but definitely won't succeed.
Yep, and I'm glad you brought up the race to the bottom, because that was something I was thinking about late last night while I was like up. I don't sleep. I just think about game design topics until I like nod off for the evening. But as we all know, as we all live through, there was that period where, again, when Steam Greenlight, Steam Direct, excuse me, first came on, again, $100 gets you a store page. So there were a lot of people who rushed onto Steam with, this is my Flappy Bird clone, this is my Binding of Isaac, my Super Meat Boy, give me 99 cents for it. And it flooded the store page. And one of the things that we say here, again, that cream will rise to the top, but the more that it's being buried makes it that much harder. And there's a lot of days where you can release a game and you're off that new release list within 5 to 10 minutes if you pick the wrong day for it. And like we said, are all those games going to be bestsellers? No. Are they all going to even have a chance of succeeding? Probably not. But the problem is they're taking up space from a game that could succeed. And again, we've seen stories of games that have, and this is why we say that you cannot rely solely on Steam to be your PR person. You need to do that work yourself, because Steam is just an algorithm. Just like, again, when we talk about the AI art and the chat one, that if you just rely solely on that and do nothing else, no human touch, you're not really going to succeed all that well.
Exactly. It is a new tool, but it is not meant to replace us in any way. I know there's a lot of people that are worried that it will replace some jobs. The jobs that it does replace will be very tedious and menial jobs. But there will be other jobs that will be available due to that. And again, it will allow, if used right and if used correctly, it will allow game design to focus more on game design instead of like game creation, that creating the atoms and the particles.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But as we've seen, and like I was looking at one of the to AI art is art. That's going to be a very tricky point. Again, when we talk about legality of it in the next few minutes, that will come up there. But to the point about people trying to misuse this, I saw someone came up with a children's book AI art generator. And
in like 42 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those things that when you first think about it, it sounds great. But then when you start kind of like, think about it a little bit closer, it's the idea, well, does this person actually have anything to say? Like, are they trying to make a children's book because they want to help children, or they want to educate? Or are they just trying to break into this market and try and sell a bunch of cheap books like that? Because, as we've said before, anything of quality, it takes time. As you said a few minutes ago about when it comes to hiring concept artists. When you hire someone who's a professional, they're going to do a lot with that. They're going to put their damnness into that piece. If you go to an AI program, it's just, it takes what it's being given. And I have a whole rant about how this relates to Proc Gen, and I will talk about that next, but I'll throw over to you, see what you think.
What was the question there, Josh? I'm looking at chat here, trying to see what's going on.
I guess about kind of like the people using it for the wrong purpose, like picture book.
I mean, of course, that, like we said, that's going to happen. That's going to happen regardless of whatever it is. And I think this is the year. This is definitely going to be the year where we're going to see a massive proliferation of it in every form. We're going to see it in Steam. We're going to see it in itch. Hopefully there will be. I don't. I really don't. I don't see any positive or anything good about this, because the most negative thing is the amount of noise that it's going to create. Like you said earlier, yeah, the cream will rise, but if there's that much more noise and that much, a game needs to be disseminated to me like, oh no, that is a AI generated game, and then so that just having that much noise is definitely a bad thing. And I mean, that's all I can say is that using it just to flip is the same thing as this acid flipping, and so hopefully that won't proliferate for very long, and probably as long as the race to the bottom lasted, as I would estimate.
And as I was saying, this whole discussion is reminding me a lot of the conversation surrounding procedural generation or Proc Gen. There are people who swear that Proc Gen is the future. It should be in every video game. It makes every game better to procedurally generate. Here's for every programmer watching this, here's your weekly stab in the chest. The idea that, hey, I'll just let the game generate all the levels for me, and it will save me so much time. That's how Proc Gen works, right? And I
Right.
don't know if you can hear right now, but there's a lot of programmers just yelling in pain. I can hear it, like it's in my other headset. You guys just can't hear that part. But one of the things about procedural generation, and again, the same thing with AI art, it does what it gets fed. If you want to create an amazing level in a video game, you can't just throw a bunch of stock assets into an AI
Oh.
program and boom, it creates the next Super Meat Boy or the next Super Mario. A lot of procedural generation works very specifically in what it can and can't be used for. In games that are very much like player, kind of more a reflex driven games where it's more about the player as opposed to the overall environment, ProcGen works really well in those. Games like Super Meat Boy, Hades, Dead Cells. But when you're trying to design something that is meant to be kind of expressive or have a personality, again, like a Dark Souls, like pick any environment or any major dungeon in Elden Ring. ProcGen would be terrible in that respect. Because there is no way that a procedurally generated program or AI could generate something as lived in and as exact as, the exact areas of, I forget, Godwin's or Godfrey's castle in Elden Ring.
Chalice dungeons in Bloodborne, remember? I
That,
mean,
it was, yeah, it's an environment. But
yeah,
how many people remember the Chalice dungeons for their impressive level design?
the
They probably
only,
remember for the bosses.
yeah, for the boss, the only, yeah, it was the major, they were just bosses at the end. But I mean, like, the only reason it was able to kind of even succeed is because they have such glorious art already, right, to use as assets. But again, it's soulless, and like each level was just like
Mm-hmm.
nothing to it and nothing memorable. So if you do want, yeah, like, do you remember a Spelunky level? Like, I mean, do you? I mean,
Yep.
so if you want something memorable, it has to be handcrafted and it has to be designed. So
Mm-hmm.
again, we're just using AI as another tool to help us, like with certain niche things that need help with.
Yep. But for the people who want to then take that, solely by itself and use that as a product, that I think is where we need to draw a line on. That if you want to work with if you want to use an AI program to, again, let's say generate, I think who said in chat, no, it wasn't that one, who said about using it as a form of redrawing. Yeah, board fan said that. Like, if you want to use this again as kind of an aid, that if you want, let's say you want to, and this is again like one of the more like kind of, I wouldn't say hidden, but kind of lesser known facts about game dev. People have been using Proc Gen in level design and environmental design for years. That's how basically every Elden Ring, no, Elder Scroll, wow, Elder Scrolls game. It's hard to say Elder and Elden really fast. The Elder Scrolls games have used Proc Gen for the basic layout of the maps, just to again generate. We need 900 square feet of desert, or forests, or mountain ranges, and then they go in and they
In
handmade all the towns, all the quests, all the dungeons. So there's a lot of that content that is just 100% AI. The
Yep.
AI made, a curved road or put trees here. But again, anyone who plays an Elder Scrolls games, you're probably not remembering that, scrub number 65, that you saw while you were walking down the street. You remember that amazing quest, that,
Exactly.
very well scripted dungeon. And that was something that a team of designers and artists and writers put together for you. So, in this respect, the AI generated content simply serves as kind of the most, like, it basically serves as the foundation or the bones of this game. And then we build all the unique stuff on top of that. And this gets back to what we were saying earlier about if you could generate just a rough environment
Yeah.
within 10 minutes and
Yeah.
then take this to an artist and say, okay, I want you to build towns in this style. I want you to build this, this, and this, you
You're
probably
saving me months,
saved
Josh. You're saving me
exactly.
months.
And again, you're still having that human element. You're just having a lot of the kind of, again, like the busy work done for
Yes.
you for
The
far
very
cheaper.
the very tedious, monotonous,
Hmm.
laborious work that it's just over and over again. Road this way, tree here, tree here, tree here, tree here, tree here. That would take forever, and
Hmm.
just and having it just and Elder Scrolls, not
Hmm.
Elder Scrolls is a perfect example of using that. They used a proc gen and then they go in there and handcrafted just the
Hmm.
base. Perfect example of holistically how we should be talking about this whole thing. From the concept art, the same thing. I
Hmm.
enter in my Saturday Night Fever. What was
Hmm.
it? Saturday
Monkey
Night
on a
Fever.
Gundam to Saturday Night
Saturday
Fever.
Night Fever. I'll get it. I'll get it. And we enter that in, and we get the perfect artwork. We take it to our concept artist. We do that. We get some. Then we get the environment. Take it to our level designer, or have the environment created, and then we just have an environment designer create it. We're saving months and months and months and months of time, and instead we can focus on the really good stuff, which is creating it actually like the game, creating a game itself,
Yep.
designing.
And that again brings me back to the point about what proc gen is good for. That you cannot just take a bunch of mechanics, throw it to an AI generated program, and have it make an amazing game.
No,
Because
not at all.
again, the point about all this AI stuff is that it needs examples. It needs things that have already been done before. When we talk about games that make the best use of proc gen, they are being built off of original designs and original mechanics. That with a game like Dead Cells or Spelunky, that with Spelunky, Derek Yu, I think that's his name, the developer. I think that's who did Spelunky. I'm gonna have to look that up while I'm saying this. But with Spelunky, it is still a game that he had to come up. Let's see. Yeah, he is the one who did Spelunky. He had to create the mechanics. He had to create what game systems were going to be used in that game. And then came the procedural generated content. If you're just trying to put the cart before the horse and say, I'm going to procedurally generate a game and then be done with it, you're just going to have the same, 50, 99-cent platformers or match 3 games. And that, again, as we've said, it's going to muddy the market in that respect.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, nothing I can add to that, Josh, other than this year for sure, we're going to see the massive influx of all those AR created games, and we're just going to see how the consumers take it.
Mm-hmm. So I think with that, as it's been popping off in chat, we should, I think, talk about the legality of it and then talk more
Yeah.
about some of the other aspects of it. So here is the big point about why a lot of people are upset about AI generated content. As we've said, the whole capper or the whole design of an AI generated program is that it takes content, it takes information to then extrapolate that out in that style, however you want to put it. For, basic things like, write me a pizza menu. Okay, that's not that bad. But when we talk about art, when we talk about styles, that is taking from someone else. That is taking from, if you want to type in whatever kind of art style you want, whatever was fed into that most likely came from someone's own portfolio, someone's own work that was either
Yeah.
featured on their website, featured, in a video game or a commercial. It was work that was paid for, that was designed originally, that is being used in this process.
Yeah, like so I was using Midjourney and Blender, and I was trying to create some. I was just testing it out for Samurai Pig. I was like, let me
Mm-hmm.
get some concept art for my concept artist. So I was making some concept art, and as I kept generating, getting deeper, I started getting actual artist signatures in popping up in the like literal their signatures there, and I was like
Mm-hmm.
looking them up and everything, and there's their picture there. and it was just slightly modified, just but yeah. So the legality of it, if I'm legit generating a picture with someone's signature on there, I mean, what legalities? How is that can be legal in any way?
Yep. And again, even if their signature is not on it, if you take someone's art
Yeah,
that they made for something else, you're using for your own product. Do you
yeah,
remember we had that discussion about using art from one game in your game, or using
yes,
someone's IP in your game without their permission?
yeah.
Just try to take Mario and put in your game. You want to speed run a lawsuit by Nintendo.
Yeah, you get the best lawsuits for sure that way.
And this is where a lot of the creative side is coming against AI art. Is that if this was simply used, like as we've said, as a tool, as just basically, you know what? I want to generate uh, cooking in space with robots. And then I want to take that to an artist or take that to a team or to people and say, I want you to build something, here's my idea, I want you to do that. But if someone just takes that and let's say takes popular styles and then says, you know what, well, this is mine now. I use this AI program that was free and open source, so surely that means that all this stuff is free for me to use. And then they go on to sell who knows what. But if they are earning money off of something that is being built off of someone else's work, this is where it gets very sketchy from a legality department.
Yeah, no, no. Hey, Todd, it legit. It had signatures on there. It was artist signatures because I
Mm-hmm.
was just doing like basic chicken art, and it you could find it.
Mm-hmm. So it's that point of if it's taking something and again, I can guarantee you that the artists were not compensated. They probably did not even know that their stuff was being used. And this again brings up a very important point for anyone watching this live recorder wants to rush in and defend this. Just because you type in free images or open source images on Google or
Doesn't mean it's
wherever,
free.
no, that is not fair, and it is not fair use either. I can guarantee you that is not considered fair use. For a lot of this, when I do like the images for my books, I take screenshots from games I record. I cut out any kind of like account information. I make it as general as possible for that point. And the images in that respect are being used to serve the text. But I am never claiming that those images are, mine. Like, I create all these video games in my deck building book or all that. And again, fair use is handled on a very case by case basis. And it is something that you need to be very well aware of. And why, as you said, like if 2023 is going to be like the year of this propagating, it's probably going to be the year of a lot of lawsuits and
Lawsuits.
copyright infringement cases happening.
For sure. Just like what we were talking about, that comic book that lost its it did have a trademark, and then it was an AI generated comic book, and it
Uh,
lost its trademark like last week or two
mm-hmm,
podcasts ago we talked about it. So but yeah, and I wasn't focusing specifically on this on the signature. What I was saying is that it's analyzing the artist's work
mm-hmm,
down to the signature is what I was saying. I wasn't focusing just that it has a signature on there, just to clarify that point.
mm-hmm. And to like the point about like if you're using this program, does that make you an artist? I don't know. I don't think I would agree with that. Like, what do you think about that?
If you're using that program, I'm going to call you a prompt engineer. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so basically, the better you are at telling the computational model what
Mm-hmm.
exactly you want, the better results you're going to get. So basically, you're just a really good prompt engineer, and I wouldn't exactly call you an artist if you're
Mm-hmm.
just generating art with like Mid Journey or something like that. Yeah, no, AI generated art clearly will only lead you to being a prop engineer. Josh?
Yeah, I agree with that because again, like when it comes to the creative aspect, that human factor, AI programs again they have to take data. They have to take something that was already there. The role of the artist or the creative is to make something from nothing, to be able to build
Yep.
something out of their own experiences, their own style. And again, like going back to the point about the chat pieces, like writing a top five favorite game of 2020 list. Okay, I've even gotten like a sponsored, quote unquote, sponsored pieces of people pitching that to me. That's not hard to do. Trying to write a piece about, you know, like what I just wrote about how to do game analysis. Programs only point at the machine. Oh, good. Now we're going to piss off the whole photography industry there, Todd. The idea that being able to create something that is unique, that is not something that can be considered, mass produced along those lines, that's a different story. It's why when we talk about the quality of video games, that the idea that, yes, you could rip off any platform or any first person shooter that you want, that doesn't make it quality. No one, if you were just copying, first person shooters, we would never see a Doom Eternal. We would never see Ultra Kill or Dusk or anything like that. It takes the eyes and the skill of someone who's creative to look at something and then build off of that. That the saying, bad people will copy an idea, or and like great people will take it and refine it, or something along those lines. I forget the
Oh
actual.
yeah, good people create and great artists steal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something
Some.
like that. Someone in chat say it right. Todd, I think you know.
Mm-hmm. And it again, like you can train an AI to do who knows how many more things we'll have that's AI driven. But when you're trying to create something that is original, something that is actually going to mean something that is unique, you need that human touch.
Yep.
And I would say, like, if we're talking about the legality side of things, I would be fine with having AI art under the caveat that it cannot be used in a commercial product. Much like how when we talk about video games, if you want to make your fan game of Mario, you can do that, and you are not allowed to charge one damn cent for that. But if you think that you can take an AI art and say, what, let's make a $60 game out of it, and
Yeah.
screw the artist and everyone who put into that, that I think opens you up to a lot of lawsuits.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the thing is, I forgot who was saying, it is like a human being is creating from nothing, right? We're creating
Mm-hmm.
from a blank page. The like the AI models, they create their conceptual models or their computational models, I'm sorry, from the content that they're given from the internet. So they're given actual artist content. So it's like, here's all this artist, disseminate from it and create something just like it. That's like quite illegal compared to a human looking at the arts and then maybe trying to draw it, right? I mean, there's quite a
Mm-hmm.
difference there.
Mm-hmm. And there is a difference between, like, to the photography examples in chat. There's a difference between someone like me going out with my smartphone and taking pictures of random scenery versus a professional who goes out with their equipment and is taking, like, the best backgrounds and still shots one could imagine. And yes, an AI could be set up to train to do that. But again, is it going to elicit the same response as someone who is a professional?
No, not even close. I
And
mean, my when I take photography pictures on Twitter, they barely get like 2 likes. I don't like some.
And to take this back to game design for a second, this is something that I've been thinking about because one of the biggest things that we're seeing from a lot of indie communities is randomizers, building algorithms for Resident Evil, for a lot of classic games, Castlevania. How many Legend of Zelda randomizers are out there? This idea that you can train an AI to build a Mario level, to build a level and pick any classic game. But the question though is, could you build an entire game off of that? And that is a very tough question. Again, if we're talking about a game if we're talking about a game that is built entirely on the player's skill level, you put them in any kind of environment, it doesn't matter. It's more about that player. But as we said earlier, is that going to be something that's memorable? How many, again, like I've played over several hundred hours of The Binding of Isaac. I cannot remember one level layout in that game because the level layout doesn't matter. It's about the player. But if we're playing a game like Prey, or we're playing Elden Ring, or any game where the environment and the level design have to matter, an AI generated program is never going to match the same level as a team of experienced level designers.
Exactly. Josh, what was that game with the cabinet at the very beginning that you couldn't move with bad UI?
I don't
See
remember. I
that could have
see
never been generated by an AI. That had to have human touch.
that is true though. Bad game design, an AI could never do that as well. Yeah. But again, though, it's the tool itself and what the purposes of it. I think is going to be the major factor. And before I forget my train of thought with the video games, it is possible again that someone like the Mario Maker community would probably go head over heels over a random Mario generator. But when we look at some of the quality Kaizo mods and stuff about that, it takes a human touch. People who've been working with, again, the unnamed Mario editing software that's out there have done amazing things. They have done things far and beyond what Nintendo could have ever have done with Super Mario World. And they did that by hand. Yes, they had a program that had, the Mario assets, that had, the general music and the general UI. But they built the heck out of that. There's a term a lot of Kaizo mods, Kaizo creators use. They call a mod either vanilla or chocolate. A vanilla mod is just basically taking what's there and then, reconstituting it. We're making our own Mario level. Exactly, board fan. And then a chocolate mod is we're going to build something that completely original. We're going to make our own assets. We're going to make our own mechanics. So while yes, this is technically a Mario level, and technically this is a Doom style game, it is nothing like like the original base concept. And that is something that no AI program could ever do. Because now we're getting to a point where we're creating something original from scratch.
Definitely.
So, any thoughts from you about kind of like the art and like how this works for an artist?
I mean, the negatives. I think we've gone over the negatives, and then I think we've gone over the pros. How much it's going to save, how much it can help, like how much it can save you time and money by being able to get your Saturday Night Fever Gundam game concept art done in moments and then send it off to a real human to actually do it right. And we talked about the cons where the legalities of it, and I think that's basically it. Now, what else we got, Josh?
Anything on your notes we haven't touched on?
I wanted to talk about, let's see here, like some of the pros on it, like especially GPT. If you haven't used it, I'd recommend using it just for like a game development educational tool. Um, you can do a lot of stuff with it. It can really help you with code. So I definitely recommend that. Other than that, I think we've touched on everything there.
Hmm. Yeah, and again, this is one of those topics, much like the Dungeons and Dragons when we did 2 weeks ago, that it is going to keep. Um, this is not something that's going to be solved in like the next two
No,
daes. The Dungeons and Dragons did
no,
wrap with them rescinding the open source license,
they did, right?
so that's at least a
Yeah.
positive in that respect.
Podcast work, Josh.
Yeah, exactly. But with this kind of stuff, I guess like for the final point, then we've actually wrapped this up a little bit early, just because we kind of nailed the points. But I guess for my overall thoughts on it, I see this again as a tool, as a very handy tool for someone who knows what they're doing to be able to cut down on their process and cut down a lot of the time and the fiddly stuff as quickly as possible. When it's used in that respect as a way to get to the creative side, to get to that point, I think it's all well and good. But when you're trying to use this simply as a way to shortcut your way to success, why learn art? Why hire an artist when I can just put, an idea in, take it, copy paste it into a book or to a website or to a YouTube channel and become famous? That is very concerning. As we've said, the point about the importance of the human factor is being able to create something that is original, to be able to create something that has, I guess, its own purpose for existing. And you need to be able to, if you cut the human factor out, you're left with just, derivative content. That again, there are websites who will pay for that. There are a lot of entry level freelancers right now who are very nervous about not being able to get even just like a basic amount of income writing, BuzzFeed pieces or, clickbaity stuff. And again, people will argue, well, good, screw them. But the point is, if you're not able to have like if there's no greater purpose of it than just to screw the creatives, to try and save all your money and put out a lesser product because of it, it doesn't really work that way. And again, the legal aspect of this is going to stand, that I don't see any AI art programs or any creators of AI art programs like this, they are going to survive a day in court. Because the second they say, well, I took images from blah, 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 no, like, it's over. Like, when you say that you take it from someone's copyright, from someone's trademark, that's when all the books get thrown at you.
Definitely. I'm very interested to see. Yeah, this will be the year we'll see what the like actual legal ramifications are. Um, we'll see where it lands for sure. And like you said, Josh, like this is a really super powerful tool. All
Mm-hmm.
the tools we have. It'll allow us to, speed up time, the development speed, all that stuff, save cost.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a shortcut, it's not a crutch. And it's not something we rely on. It's still going to need that human touch.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things. The pros that it's going to allow, indie devs to do is amazing. Create massive narrative branching stories. You can even use it for marketing ideas. You can use it for probably you can you can even probably use it for help with mailing out up 500 emails to libraries. I bet it can
Mm-hmm.
figure that out also. There's so many things that it can do. And so as long as it's used for good, I think that we're going to be looking at a good prospect for it. And if it is going to be used in game dev regardless, let's just hope that it goes in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. And what you just said there about used for good is a very important aspect, because there are a lot of people who don't want to use it for good. Just how we saw a
Yeah.
lot of companies want to use blockchain and NFTs as a
Jeez.
quick buck. And Ramin's point that he made on the roundtable, I think, certainly work for the validity of having an NFT as an actual credible thing. But again, it's that issue of one, or in this case, dozens and dozens of rotten apples spoiling the whole bunch. And like we've said, like, people have been using AI generated content in video games for years. If you there's no point in trying to argue that. It has been in any major game where you need tons and tons of environments laid out. Star Control, the original Star Control 2, I remember I spoke with oh no, I forget their names, but the developers of it, and they use an AI generated program to create the actual, layout of all the stars. And then they went in and did the unique stuff. And that again is where I think it needs to kind of lie. That it is a tool to get started. It is not a tool to make money off of.
Exactly.
And if
Yeah,
you
I was a little sad when I was noticing the massive amount of YouTube videos just like how to make money with OpenJet, like
mhm,
why is it no. This is an amazing tool to
mhm,
like almost Renaissance era type like tool that we have
mhm,
now with AI. And so yeah, definitely using it just for money and greed, it will not work, and that's not we got to use it for good.
mhm. But again, the question is going to be how many people are going to try and use it for good.
No.
And again, we're going to see that in the court system is going to be, I think, seeing that in the next 11 months.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There you go, Morphin. Type that into one of the R programs. See if it will create anything. Just don't show that to me because that will give me nightmares. But I think with that, we can probably wrap things up a little bit early, unless there's any other points about this one.
No, I guess we basically covered it all, Josh.
Let's see. I guess to Smith's point, though, there's still a human at the forefront who is having to create the original content. Again, with what we see with, again, like if you're using AI art as a foundation or as a concept to then build off of, then you're creating something original off of that. But if you're just putting something into a program and then using that wholesale as whatever, book, video game, story, whatever, that I think takes it a little too far. Because as
Exactly.
we were saying, like, at what you just typing into a program, again, whatever, that's not really doing anything creative. Like, your input was just to generate or get that going. Where, who actually worked on that? Who actually built something on top of that? That's what humans using the tool. Yeah, but the tool itself, as we said, like when it comes to proc gen, that you can have a game generate a level. You can I'm sure there are people who are doing AI generated programs for Elden Ring or for any Souls game. Does that make it as qualitative or as quality as an original level from, the team at From Software? Probably not. And again, proc gen and any kind of AI driven stuff in video games is a very specific function for a game. You cannot build a game off of nothing but proc gen and have no other design sensibilities, and it will do well. Because it will not. I have seen and played many games that, without having that human touch, without having a greater understanding of what is and what is not good design, having the engine generate 500 horrible levels is not going to make that game sell well.
You know why that fails, Josh, is because the levels are unknown, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're basing the entire game on an unknown. So that's always why they fail when the mechanics are based on proc gen. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like okay, my entire game is going to be based on a proc gen levels, and that's the number one key factor. Well, that's completely unknown, and will they be good is always unknown.
Yeah.
So
And I can give you and I guess here's my final example I can give you of that. A Valley Without Wind by Argon Games. This was their kind of first kind of Metroidvania 2D platformer. And they use proc gen for literally every major environment. And the problem was, it was just a mess to go through. The environments didn't look right. Like, this was a game where you had, like, stairs leading up into nothing and 27 bathrooms in a house. And B, it was not balanced to the gameplay. So this was one of those games where it will generate a level, but hey, did you have the right skill? Well, no. Well, now you literally can't do the stage because the level was generated under the assumption that you had access to all of these abilities. And again, it just lacked any real sense of personality. And maybe that's kind of where this lies in terms of what the human factor
right,
brings in. It brings that personality. And that is something that an AI cannot replicate.
not
It
cannot
cannot,
do it.
an AI cannot generate personality.
Smith saying, "Why does the human element matter?" is the core question. Then, um, now you could say, well, uh, if you're talking about like jobs being lost or this and that, it's like we're not necessarily need to be doing the same tedious repetitive task over and over again, and all we're saying is that we're using the AI as a tool to complete those repetitive tasks, going from a hammer to a nail gun, right? Kind of thing. So the legality issue, though, is that it scrapes and it parses and it creates its computational model from other people's work
Mm-hmm.
and generates it from there. And so that's where the legality issue comes from. But as far as the human element, so
Yeah. And again, like with something like automation, that having a machine that can hammer 10,000 nails in 97% of the time it would take a human to do that, there's no human factor to one task. You know, if you want to say paint a house, write words, okay, you can have anything do that. But I think to the hammer point, it would be a difference between just hammering nails on a board and having a carpenter actually build you a
yes,
desk, build you a cabinet.
exactly. Yes, perfect analogy, Josh.
I don't know. Is the whole chat just nothing but bots? Who knows?
Yeah, we don't
Bots and
know.
aliens. But again, the human element being able to create something original. And like we said, when we say original, because I know someone's going to throw up at us. Well, nothing's original these days. We all are built on studying examples. The originality is taking something and creating something and taking a concept and building it out of your own sense of style. Again, there's thousands of platformers these days. But why do people remember Mario, Shovel Knight, Hollow Knight, and so on? With that point, they remember it because of all the aspects that make that unique. As we've said, anyone can make a platformer, just like anyone can make a first person shooter, or whatever. But how many of you can create Doom? How many of you can create the next Halo? Or the next Zelda game?
Yeah, I hope that the whole chat's not chat GPT.
Mm-hmm. Well, if an AI can generate, again, are we at the point where you can say that an AI can create an original gameplay mechanic without any input from anything else?
Mm.
Because until we're at that point, we can't really have that conversation. Because, like we said, right now, what AI are and AI generated programs, it requires a human in order to provide that information. If you can just create an AI that says, okay, design, just, out of thin air, it will design an original game for you. That's when we get to Skynet, I think. I think that's how we get to
Yeah.
Matrix and the end of the
Yes.
world.
Yeah. So, like right now, like in your analogy, right now we're still at the point where I, as a human, have to make the plan for the table and then tell the master carpenter, "Here's a table that I want made," and the master carpenter can make it for me. Then I can take it and then paint it. That's where we're at. It's not. I know. It's not like I just say, I need object," and then it decides and creates tables. We're not Skynet yet. Exactly.
Just like how we say, like, Unity still doesn't have that make game button.
They don't. Yeah, they don't have the make gun button yet. I'm waiting.
Yeah. Or the just transform game from 2D to 3D. Just hit,
Yeah.
again, just pull that toggle in 5 seconds. It's a 3D game. Now it's a 2D game. Now it's a 3D game.
Platformer, first person shooter.
Mm-hmm. There you go. There's the next big AI thing. You just type, you just hit the toggles. Okay, platformer, shooter,
Shooter.
pixel art, go, and it generates an entire game for you in 2 minutes.
Oh,
I shouldn't be joking. That may be coming.
it
Someone may
might be
be coming
coming.
up with that in the next
Yeah,
6 to 8 months from now.
for real.
Yeah. But again, it's still one of those topics that I think ultimately, though, as we've said, it's going to have to be settled in the courts. Just like
Yeah.
how, I forget the name of it. The copyright, the one, not is it DMC? Yeah, DMCA. How that went to the courts, good or bad. I think this will have to get sent there, and whatever they say is probably going to go. But as we are talking, I know there are artists who are preparing for a class action lawsuit against
Yeah.
these programs.
Yeah, definitely.
And like I said, like, if this is used simply as a foundational thing, and then to build off of using, other people, that I'm fine with. But again, you go to a court and you say, and the very first words that come out of your mouth are, well, I took these images from Google to put into my AI program, or I scanned images from so and so. Both lawyers, both the defense and the plaintiff, are going to give you the look of what the hell did you just say to a copyright and trademark case.
Yeah. Not gonna hold up.
Mm-mm. So there you go. Again, we're giving all these amazing ideas. I hope someone ends up making a game out of them. So, I think with that, we can probably wrap things up for this week. Again, let us know what you think in the comments down below. If we can get Tomo on for conversation, we will definitely have to grab him.
Yes,
Either
definitely.
getting his thoughts on this, or on any number of topics. Again, Tomo's one of those guys that we can just, ramble for 3 hours straight, and it'll be an interesting conversation.
Definitely.
So, I guess with that, any final points from you before we end things?
No, I think we basically covered everything, Josh. You know what I mean? It's going to be really good. It's especially for indie devs. This is great. This is going to be the year we're going to see, and just hopefully they're going to be used for good. And that's all.
Yeah. Or it will be like the whole NFT thing, and we're going to see a
Yeah,
lot of companies
yeah.
just, again, speed run the death of their goodwill.
I
Like,
was surprised how fast everybody was speedrunning the deaths of their goodwills with
mhm.
NFTs. Just like nothing.
And again, if you combine NFTs with AI art, that's a speed tech to the lawsuit. That will get you even faster. The lawsuit
Speedrun
ending.
plus
Hmm.
for sure.
But if you guys have any comments or ideas for future shows, let us know in the comments down below. For next week, I think we will do the multiplayer chat or the competitive game chat.
Yeah,
So be sure to tune in for that. We will be starting around 5 p.m. ET on Saturday.
that's right. And as always, you can follow me. Links are down below. Wishlist Samurai Pig. Join the Game Wisdom Discord, buy Josh's books, and I will see you next time.
Do the liking, subscribing, commenting. Buy 20 copies. Do a double 10 pull on all my books. That would be really helpful. Write reviews or have chat bots just write negative reviews on my book. That would be great. But join the Discord, do all that great stuff. We're going to try and get some more roundtables scheduled into February, so we'll see about that. And come back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where he's in the art and science of games.